Hi, welcome to Exploring the Illusion of Free Will. My name is George Ortega. I'm here with my special guest, Nick Vale. Nick, great to see you again. Okay, this is episode number 175. Okay, we've been at this since November of 2010. Free will, how overcoming the belief creates a better world. The idea behind this show is that, this topic of free will is not inconsequential. It's relatively inconsequential when people believed the world was flat. It was relatively inconsequential when people believed that the sun revolved around us. This is nothing like this. It matters to us at a profound level, both socially and globally, that we get this right. And that's what this show is about. Before we get into it, Nick, explain to the audience, what do people mean when they say they have a free will? What is the free will debate historically about? And then you might want to get into what the difference is.
The free will debate is really basically about, is your life, honestly, is your life up to you? Could you have done otherwise? Are you ultimately morally responsible for your life and your actions and your words?
Excellent.
And your consciousness.
So it's not about whether we have political freedom. It's not whether we feel free. Some people will say, well, yeah, I have a free will if I feel like I have a free will. No, the earth is not flat if you feel the earth is flat. Okay, so there's a difference between feeling and reality sometimes. Okay, and so all right, ordinarily we get into why the show is important, but this entire show is about that. So Nick, start us out. How can our world overcoming the illusion of free will lead to a much better world?
Okay, well, first of all, you know what the butterfly effect is? Have you ever heard that term? The slightest difference of a tiny little, a bird, it flaps its wing on one side of the world and causes a typhoon on the other.
Absolutely.
Or in a big system like a hurricane, a tiny little thing at the beginning could mushroom out into, ripple out and make it a much more chaotic thing, right? So on this tiniest little level, this may seem insignificant. Well, why does it matter if we have free will and people don't believe in it, or vice versa? You don't want to have a butterfly effect where you have 90% of the world, having the wrong consciousness. So we believe on the smallest level, if you just change that belief that there is no free will to from there is free will to there isn't free will, huge changes could mushroom or ripple out, such as a more compassionate, kinder world with less homicide, less suicide, less violence, less revenge. It just ripples out to all kinds of emotional things that people in relationships to other people will feel.
All right, excellent. And we got to explain in detail how that works. In other words, with the free will belief, people believe, well, that person of their own free will did something that's wrong, so they're immoral and they deserve to be punished. We're going to feel vengeance toward them. Let's present a scenario. You're in a restaurant, okay, with somebody, and you see somebody putting this something in somebody's drink, right? And this person you're with is drink, right? All of a sudden after that, it's some kind of an agent that makes the person start becoming hostile and, and offensive. All right.
Right.
Now you've seen this. You've seen the person putting that, and the person didn't see it, right? Whatever. So
wow,
how
fascinating. Yeah.
How would you react toward this person whose drink has just been spiked, whatever, with this agent that causes them to be very offensive?
In a way, I would feel sorry for them. Try to help them. Realize that nothing they're doing is under their control, and try to be compassionate, kind of help them, get rid of the effects of this drug. That's brilliant. I never heard you say that.
Thank you.
And now you're going to say, assume you're in the restaurant and this person just starts acting.
You're right there.
Starts beating up the waiter. You're going to be furious.
Exactly.
Saying he's a jerk, he's an asshole, I don't know. He should be in jail. He's this, that, the other thing. He needs to be put away. He's ruining my time in the restaurant. I'm going to sue him. I'm going to punish him. But if you know the drink was spiked causing him to act that way, it's a completely different mindset.
Excellent.
That's brilliant.
Thank you. All right, let's go through it again.
I knew you starting this movement was brilliant. Now you really proved it.
Let's go through it again.
Yeah.
That was like a make-believe example. How about a real-world example? Somebody has Tourette's syndrome, okay? And like, you know it. Tourette syndrome is a syndrome where like people start just like shouting obscenities, they just start, whatever. So like you're in a restaurant with somebody you know has Tourette syndrome and they start doing that. How are you going to react?
With compassion and kindness. I'm not going to be that upset. I'm going to try to get them to maybe be removed because I want a quiet atmosphere, but I'm not going to be mad at them.
Exactly. All right. And again,
but I have an example that other people might actually relate to because it's more hurtful. Okay. Say you're married to the love of your life and you come home one night and she's in bed with another man, but it comes out later that the drink was spiked and she didn't know what was going on. She still cheated on you, and it's more personal, but how would you respond to that?
All right, here's the thing. So, like, if you knew that her drink was spiked,
she was unconscious, whatever, yeah.
Right. Then, like, there's no way that you can morally, rationally blame her or hold her accountable. In other words, like, she was like completely innocent. She goes to a restaurant, right? Somebody spikes her drink, and that leads her to hook up with somebody and like commit adultery.
Okay, I thought of a better one. Say you're hit by a car and you broke your legs and you lost a lot of, you got really badly injured, and you found out that the guy driving the other car drink was spiked unbeknownst to him. Then what do you do? Again,
still, all right, the essence of this is like, in that case, you're still not going to blame him because you're still going to know that it wasn't his fault. But what you're going to do is, like, in other words, like, understanding that we don't have a free will transfers our blame and our anger on our reaction from this mistaken agent, this person who absolutely had nothing to do with what they were doing, to this nebulous like cause and effect, the universe, God, however we want to define it.
But the car example is the best example of the few that we just gave, because you're actually injured here. Your car has $20,000 of damage. You've lost your legs. There's noise.
No, whatever.
I think that in this case, you would still have to sue the other person because he's accountable but not responsible on any deep level. You want your money back. You want compensation for the loss of your legs, and you're now mad at the universe. But the car thing, unlike the wife and the guy in the restaurant, is now actually really affected you. It's a little different. You can't just say, well, he's not responsible or accountable. I'm just going to go on with my life. You've been severely injured. Now your whole life has been altered. You've lost your legs. You can't work. You can't make money. Your car's injured. You have damages. I think you still have to go about it pragmatically. Well, even if his drink was spiked, the other guy.
Yeah, but think about it. If the person was completely innocent, he didn't know the drink was spiked and all, and if the judge was aware of that situation, or the jury, there's no way the judge or the jury is going to blame that person also. Now, fortunately, like in
but you still got to get insurance to pay. He's still accountable.
Right, but here's the thing. Like in our country, we have this no-fault insurance thing, and it doesn't matter whose fault it is, whatever, that the insurance companies pay, whatever. But I'm not sure how it works in
But I'm saying, you being the victim of this, you're not going to just say, oh, he's not, he doesn't have free will. His drink was spiked. I'm going to let him. You're going to take action to get your money back, to get your life together.
But think about it. Like, would it be fair? Like, in other words, let's say you were asking, would it be fair to ask the judge or the jury to make the person pay out of their pocket for something that wasn't their fault at all?
No, but you're saying you would pursue legal remedy to this. You wouldn't just let it. You wouldn't just say he didn't have a free will. All is forgiven. You would still say someone has to be. The universe did this to me. The universe has to be accountable. That's through the insurance company to fix my car and give me the medical help that I need to get my leg. To get prosthetics or whatever.
Right. So in that case, like, for example, you can't sue the universe, right?
Right.
But in other words, like.
But you wouldn't be angry at the driver. You'd be angry at the universe.
Right. Or if you can find the guy who spiked the drink, that's the person, whatever. Right.
True, but not really, because he could say my causal history caused me to spike the drink. I don't have free will either.
No. Well,
the guy who spiked the drink.
Well, that's right. But we're explaining why it's this no free will perspective is different. So, like, in other words, like. Yeah.
No, but I'm saying you would not just not do nothing.
Right.
If you're injured in the car, you would take action.
Right.
Right. Okay. So how would go ahead?
All right. So now you've made this complicated in a good way. So like with the person whose drink has been spiked, like I can't blame that person. I don't even know who it is.
Keith, what's that?
That's all right. That's all right.
There's like a buzzsaw going off.
That's all right. But
nobody's listening.
Anyways, so like all right. So
it's upstairs. Okay.
All right. Because they're doing
It's
some
like drilling
construction.
or something. Yeah.
Right.
Go
All
ahead.
right. All right, there's two conditions here. There's different, and you got to like tease out the salient facts about this. One, the person's completely innocent, and there's nothing that they could have done about it, and there's nothing that they can do in the future in terms of like, kind of like reforming themselves or something. In other words, they were completely innocent. They didn't do anything wrong to begin with. Whereas like the person who spiked the drink, then you could more rationally, more legalistically sue that person because, even though we don't have a free will, we're hardwired to respond to reward and punishment. In other words, like we need our laws and our...
So you're saying the person who spiked the drink is accountable, but not really morally, fundamentally responsible. They're pragmatically responsible and accountable, but not in any deeper, true sense.
Excellent. All right. So now
how will that make a better world? Yeah.
All right. So I hope you get. All right. So like now let's translate this. So you've got the principle of like you can't really logically blame someone whose drink has been spiked, who has like Tourette syndrome or something that is not in their control. All right. Now apply this principle to everyone. You can't really blame anyone for anything because we don't have a free will. Let's apply it to like more, in other words, like our best friend just all of a sudden like does something that we consider really, really wrong and we believe in free will. What are we going to do in that circumstance?
Actually, I think the people might appreciate a really concrete example of the ISIS terrorists that behead Americans on YouTube.
Okay, perfect.
So you're saying that the world would be better because we wouldn't hate. I mean, right now, if you speak to someone on the street, they hate these people. They want Obama to go there and nuke the whole country, which will obviously kill women, children who have nothing to do with this. So you're advocating a better world by not doing revenge and retribution, blaming them pragmatically, but not to the severe, maybe talk with them?
Well, here's the thing. Like, if we're being attacked by a terrorist group, by a country or something, I mean, there's this principle of self-defense that applies whether people have free will or not. And if somebody's coming after you, it doesn't matter whether they have free will. You have a right to defend yourself. But in this ISIS example, you make a great point. In other words, like people are filled with hatred and feelings of vengeance to the extent that they would want to nuke this country and kill a lot of innocent people.
Well, they have the free will belief because they're beheading us because of something we've done to them. They have a whole list of grievances that we've done that we could have done otherwise, and it's escalating and getting worse and worse. So I don't know what, like you said, the pleasure principle is in effect, which we have no choice but to feel best about ourselves, which is to go back there. We're so furious. But I'm wondering if the free will belief isn't really a small part of this as it escalates with each side blaming the other for doing these horrific, horrible things. Somewhere, someone has to say enough is enough. Let's talk about this.
I think that's a brilliant point.
So that will make a better world.
Right. In other words, this free will issue doesn't just apply to how we're responding to ISIS. It probably fundamentally, profoundly explains why and how they responded. They did what they did. They believe that we have a free will, and that fuels their anger and their rage toward us.
Okay. So the premise here is the no free will belief will make a better world, and there's more talking involved, more compassion, less violence, less other hatred, less suicide, less self-hatred. And just first of all, let me throw that. Even if nothing changed, even if maybe, I don't know how it could be worse, but the free will belief has had many, many thousands of years now, 2,000 years to try to work. It's clearly not working. So say we did the no free will belief for the next 2,000 years and it came out the same. Wouldn't it be better to live in the truth?
Absolutely. Well,
so even if there is,
absolutely.
okay. So, but we're theorizing that we're banking and betting that the no free will belief couldn't be any worse than what we have now, because what we have now certainly doesn't work. If you got people beheading people on YouTube, this thing isn't working. I mean, we can't. How could you do worse?
I know, especially like just very quickly. Like I explained it in the last episode. this free will belief is causing climate change denial. People are denying that we're causing climate change because like scientists are telling them and they believe we of our free will are destroying the future of the planet. People can't handle it. They start feeling guilty. They can't handle the guilt, so they deny it. Now the point here is that like you don't feel guilty over something you don't feel responsible for. All right, so like if people didn't feel responsible for climate change, they wouldn't feel guilty about it, but they would, therefore they wouldn't deny it, and they would understand that like, fine, it's not our fault, but if we care about our kids and our grandkids and future generations, we're gonna like address it. Okay, we have to do that. But like, Nick, I want to address like, so let's explore this situation where a guy comes home, finds his wife in bed with another guy, and like the other guy and the wife and the guy who comes home, the entire world understands that nobody has a free will. What would happen in that case?
Well, I'm going to have to invoke the definition of free will, which is you could have done otherwise. And bringing that into the room, saying that you could have done otherwise, or in this case, you could not have done otherwise, alleviates a lot of the tension of the malicious intent model of the universe, which is you come home and you see your wife, if you believe in free will, you believe she's purposely, maliciously intending to hurt you, when really she's got her own problems, clearly, and she had no other choice but to do this. But it wasn't malicious. It's almost like more of an impersonal attack versus a personal attack.
All right, let's explore this in detail.
Well, it's the universe attacking you, and I don't think the universe really, gives a rat's ass about you because, so the universe is an impartial, impersonal blob of consciousness, which is hurting you and messing up your marriage, but it's not singling you out maliciously, like your wife is not going out. She's just doing what she does.
All right, but let's
she could not have done otherwise.
Right. So in other words, like yes, what Nick is saying is like you would transfer your blame to the universe, but let's not deal with that right now. So like, all right, like
that's exactly what I was saying.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
all right, go ahead.
So like, let's go back to like, let's say the example is like that, like same scenario, but everybody believes in free will. Chances are that husband is going to get really, really angry and start yelling at the woman and start yelling at the guy. If there's a gun in the house, he could get a gun and maybe start shooting and stuff. Very vengeful, hateful, aggressive stuff would be happening, right? That's the free will. That's the world we live in. That's our world.
Well, without free will, there could still be some arguing and yelling, and with free will, there would be guns and knives.
No.
It just escalates. Without free will, there should be a little upsetness.
No, well, upsetness. But here's not. Let's
slight,
say
not
scenario,
severe. Yeah.
Tomorrow, for this scenario, everybody gets to know. There's
okay, so now everybody gets it.
Now, 50 years from tomorrow, not only does everyone get it, but like we get it. Profoundly. It's integrated completely into our consciousness, right? So in that scenario, yes, the person is gonna become angry, but there's absolutely no way the person can logically, sanely, rationally become angry at the woman or the guy because everybody understands that everybody's a puppet, nothing's up to anyone.
Well, there could be some anger as far as reprimanding and admonishing for the future. Like, I'm very upset. Please, that really hurts. Please don't do that again.
No, there's not. There's
got to be operant and classical conditioning going on so it doesn't happen again.
I agree with you.
Meanwhile, you're not going to escalate it to severe yelling or violence or physical altercation because all you're really trying to do is tell the person you're unpleased, please don't, that really hurts, please don't do that again. And, she has to feel guilt if she loves you so she doesn't do it again, but not severe toxic guilt where she wants to hurt herself for you or, So there still has to be some emotion.
All right.
I'm not in favor of what you're saying. There's no emotion.
The emotion.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm saying that there would be emotion.
Okay, good.
But the emotion could not in any sense be rationally directed toward the woman or the guy.
For admonishment and reprimand for the next time.
No. Here, let me hear me out. Okay, it's like the anger, the emotion would be directed at the universe, at God, or whatever you want to call it, right? And we want to absolve the universe also, because we can. We can absolve the universe by saying like there's no first cause, that like time and causality regresses infinitely. So we might be able to eliminate anger completely. I'm serious. But like for this example, so we don't get angry at them, but yeah, we say, listen, honey, all right, I've got this like predetermined need to kind of like really need to be with a wife that's faithful, because like when you're unfaithful, I mean, I understand it's not your fault, but it makes me feel bad. So like she might say, I really understand, and like, I'm not sure why this happened, and like she'll either say, well, I can promise you it'll never happen again, in which case they go on, or she might say, well, I wish I could promise you that it wouldn't happen again, but like, I haven't been too satisfied. You've been coming home late from work. You haven't been paying attention to me. So like, I'm seeking out this other guy.
Right.
Words, but so they would be negotiating this, whatever, without anger, with the feeling like, oh my God, we're both victims. Look what the universe is doing to us.
So you want to transfer the emotionality from the people, from the upset party more to the universe.
Yeah, and then again,
but she's still pragmatically responsible.
Right. All right.
She did not, she's accountable. She has to answer to him.
Right. So let's say,
may not be. She's not responsible any deep. She's not going to hell and with a pitchfork and an eternity with fire. She's just pragmatically or blamelessly or faultlessly responsible.
All right, so
he has grounds to ask her what's going on
right,
here.
And he may even have grounds, or may think it's the right thing to do, to say, listen, honey, like, we understand that we don't have free will, but we also understand that we react to reward and punishment.
Right.
So I'm going to try this out. Don't take this personally, because I know it's not your fault, but like, from now on, I'm going to stay in a hotel or something for the next week, and maybe that will kind of like, serve as a punishment to get you to think of what you've done, whatever, to like, in other words, like, so that would be valid, but that would be done without any kind of animosity, without any kind of
Actually, the big change will be our vocabulary, because in today's world, if you said to your wife, I understand you were compelled by the entirety of the universe, and you're blamelessly responsible, and I have no choice but to blame the universe and not you, so I'm going to a hotel. I also have no choice because I'm being compelled by the entirety of the universe to divorce you. These are a lot of words that nobody uses, which I think in 50 years from now, when everyone gets it, will be thrown around as normal dialogue and syntax or whatever, the vocabulary, the slang of the time. Those are the new words.
Right, but again, like, it's not just the vocabulary. In other words,
I think it would be a lot of the vocabulary.
Absolutely. But the other part is like, they both might be very upset, but instead of like fighting each other, they might even come together to help each other, empathizing with each other's upsetness. In other words, like, the husband would be upset, and the woman's going to empathize by, with the husband being upset, and she's going to be upset, and the man's going to upset. In other words, like, so like, they will deal with the situation without directing their hostility toward each other. But
again, that's going to be different words spoken,
Absolutely.
Different vocabulary, different idiomatic expressions, like the universe has had no, the entirety of the universe has compelled this, honey, don't you see? That's like a new expression that might come out.
Right.
Something like that.
Right. And
dialect.
Yes. And another part of it is like, why did you do this to me? How could you do
that'll
this
fade away.
That's going to change completely to like, honey, we got to figure this out. Why is the universe doing this to us?
But 50 years from now, that will look like some words in Old English. Like, there are words in Old English that we don't use anymore. I don't know, like...
Blame.
Like,
well,
no, like I'm saying, like, in the 1500s, if you look through an English dictionary from England, those are... So in 50... They'll say, what you just said, why did you do this to me, will be like Old English. It won't be used anymore.
You're
fade out.
completely right.
That's what you're trying to say.
In other words, like, nobody's going to say, as an indictment, as a blaming, why did you do this to me? Because that's not going to make any sense.
Oh, that's Old English. That's from the 50s. That's from the 2010s.
What people will be saying is like, why do you think, and this will be much more peaceful without any animosity, why do you think the universe compelled you to do this?
Different expressions.
So
There'll
instead
be new
of like,
expressions.
So under this free will paradigm, everybody's consumed with anger and blame and retribution and like directed anger. Like, so like, we move from that paradigm to a paradigm where people like are going to understand they're victims to this fate and trying to figure out why it happened, to prevent it from happening, or to address it in the most, sane and beneficial way.
So it'll really be a different vocabulary. There'll be like the old expressions with the new, just like has been happening. I'm sure we could find an Old English dictionary from England, with words that you've never, but people used to speak that way.
Exactly.
Like, have you ever read Shakespeare?
Absolutely.
There's all kinds of words that we don't use anymore.
I know.
So what you're saying, I think it'll be more than 50 years from now, maybe 100.
It could be 10 years. I mean, you never
Well,
know.
if this
Like,
catches on, everyone gets it. And you say, "Why did you do this to me?" That'll be the old English. That'll be like that we haven't said that since, say it's 2070. We haven't said this since 2015. Something like that.
no, I know. For example, like we sometimes like we blame people. That word will be an archaic. That's not going to be used. Like we're not going to blame. We'll hold people accountable. Like that's very keen point you made before. And people will still be accountable for what they do. In other words, reward, punishment. We'll have our rules and laws, but they won't be made to feel bad.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would ever say you're to blame for this. It would be you're blamelessly responsible. Something like that. You're faultlessly responsible.
But they're not going to say it with anger. They're saying, "Listen, dude,
no, well, you're faultlessly accountable."
Right? Like we had, what they're going to say is, "Listen, everybody understands it wasn't up to you, but
yes.
But we have to protect society. We have to try to recondition you so you don't do it again. So we're going to do this and this, and we regret we have to do this." But you understand the person who's being indicted is going to understand completely. Then they're going to understand that it's like a matter of reason. There's not going to be any hate involved, no revenge, no animosity. It's going to be so much more of a peaceful world.
Right. That's a good point. So it'll be a little bit of a different language. We'll make a better world. And like I started the show saying, the butterfly effect, even if it's one little word, removing the word blame, like the bird on one side of the world that flapped its wings, started a typhoon, the slightest little difference in consciousness with just changing one or two words could have a huge effect on the overall species of the human being of a better world of different consciousness.
Okay, we've got about a minute.
That's brilliant.
Thank you. 1 minute left.
Okay.
One final point is what will happen is we will shift from being consumed by and distracted by our emotions, our aggressive, hostile feelings toward each other, which is the free will paradigm, to what we don't often enough do now, to figuring out why things happen. That husband and wife, why did this happen? A person does something wrong. Why did they do something wrong? It's only when we come to the reasons why people do things, can we really understand them enough to change them. So we'll move from this shoot from the hips mentality, that doesn't try to understand, to a much more sane and intelligent and compassionate world where we seek understanding for why we do what we do. Okay, thanks for watching.
Watch channel 56 Manhattan.